Hi, I'm Nick. Let's do a let's see what's inside kind of teardown. We've got a, what is there a brand? Oh, it's right there. Oh, it is an Alpine CDA-9857 car radio. And what makes this interesting is that it's I would assume an aftermarket. It doesn't seem to be specifically branded. So I think it's an aftermarket car one. I picked it up for absolutely dirt cheap. Probably doesn't even work. Who knows? Very small form factor. The volume knob is actually recessed, so you pop it out. This thing is like matching our background, but pop it out to do it, and you can still rotate it while in there. Who knows if it actually accepts adjustments? I don't know. And it is a CD receiver, but where's the CD slot? You push this little thing and pop the front cover down. There's your CD slot. There's your eject button, and here's the actual connector that goes onto the front panel here. You see the connector that attaches to the front panel. And for some reason there's this little notch that pops out and a little recess point here that it goes into. I don't know if there's like a Hall effect sense on the other side to see if it's down, but as far as I can tell there's no physical connection to the front, so you're going to be disconnected electrically before it senses that, unless there's some sort of huge cap or battery in here that does. Oh, and it can remove too. That's interesting. Let's take it out. Let's follow the instructions. It's one of those, I've actually dealt with some aftermarket radios like this before, and when you start getting into fancier, even low-end fancier aftermarket radios for cars, you can often take out the front panel, so that way people will be less interested in stealing it, because without the front panel it effectively doesn't work. So let's see what the instructions say. So we need to do like this, pop, oh, yep, and it comes right off. Now we have our front panel. I think we should probably go ahead and try the teardown of this first. Get out the new patented butter knife. Alright, we are in. So there is a tiny spring that clips over this button to spring it out so you can remove the front panel. Now this panel, I think, is stuck by the button on the front. Yes, how to remove said button. Looks like just a usual push fit on shaft. There we go. Now it looks like a solid piece of plastic for guiding the light from LEDs along the front, and then these vaguely, the buttons that, yeah, so these are vaguely springy buttons on the front. They're actually pushed forward farther. They can sit a little proud, but they actually get pushed forward a hair if they're sitting too proud by the actual button, and then by pressing it, it pushes up through the case and onto the buttons on the actual board. There's a tiny light guide piece over here for this one button. I think it's just one. Yep. And there's a very long light guide on this side for the actual power indicator, so it's a much brighter point of light at the front. Probably dedicated LED. Oh wait, I believe this is actually for, it almost looks like a remote control. There's a light pipe there that goes onto this chip with a black dome over the top, which is probably an infrared receiver for a remote control, which is hilarious for cars, but apparently they do have them. So with a few screws, this button assembly comes out. I guess you need to repair it, but it's not exciting electronically. Onto the board, I think we should go ahead and just preemptively switch over to Macrovision. We can take a quick overview, I guess. We've got this rotary encoder for the volume knob, which, quite interestingly, built in is the push function. That's a very cool part there. And then it's just a large number of buttons, small and large LEDs around it, which we'll look into detail. Bounce brake, the giant screen here. Large module. Is it? Must be zebra on the board, because I don't see, there's the 4 tab welds, or tab soldered points, or whatever you want to say, bent over and soldered on for the case, but the actual connections must be underneath. Yeah, it looks like I can see it's fine. On the back we just have our chipset, so we'll take a look at that. Don't know if you could hear that background noise, but hopefully it's gone now. Alright, we've got what looks like RAM or flash with strange marking on it that looks like a version-y type number thing, as well as some other marks. But it is a Spansion S29JL032. Anyway, Spansion, I think they typically make flash and EEPROMs and similar, so we'll dock it what that is. We've got an actual Alpine branded chip here, which is the main everything I would imagine. It takes, let's see, some sort of combined serial and other thing that goes and talks to this, which will probably have a display driver built in, as well as the ability to read from whichever type of memory that is. And it's probably just taking a bunch of the inputs and running it, though LEDs are possibly either like dimmed through here or just controlled directly from voltage. They actually all seem to have their own little resistor associated with each LED. So most likely power comes in and it just turns the whole thing on. It's like actually pink silkscreen layer actually makes it hard to see a lot of the traces. Oh, reflections. So it's kind of hard to figure out where traces go. Oh, that is like a, yeah, not too used to this, but this is some sort of clock or oscillator type chip. I'm not as familiar with that package as other styles, but yeah, so probably 5 megahertz we could imagine. There's that tiny bit of, oh, you can't see under there. It's that tiny bit of silkscreen where the little finger pushes through this hole and goes onto here. I don't have any magnetic viewer. Let's see, where is that? Alright. Is this magnetic? Very much seems like no. So the entire front is basically just composed of these little tactile switches and LEDs. I'm going to imagine they're all blue, but let's find out with the old multimeter trick. Yep, there we go. You can just about see that it's blue. There we go, it's blue. More and more tactile buttons. They're all kind of labeled on the silk screen. I think most of them are fairly well labeled. And then we get over here where, again, I think that's an infrared receiver. There's a part number. 771613. Well, that's what you expect for a front panel. Let's take a look inside the actual unit. And if you're wondering, when putting this back together, orientation of the knob doesn't matter on the actual unit here because it's a rotary encoder. It spins infinitely. We can attempt prying this off, but it might be held down by parts further in the process. Lift up and take that off. Oh, no free CD. What do we immediately see here? Well, if we can give a little bit more room. We've got the CD mechanism. That's pretty much the central feature of this. Is it kind of shock? Yeah, I think it's probably. Yeah, it's on the 4 shock mount proofs, so shock-proof mounts. Actually, a lot less in here than I was expecting. I mean, I didn't imagine it to be too much, but there's a lot of empty space. You pretty much just have to fit this form factor anymore. So there's just empty space here. And you got room there. Back's going to be all of your amplifier circuitry. This, I believe, is a special connector for the iPod dock function. And on the back they're actually using RCA jacks for the speakers as a common thing. This is your FM antenna. I'm not familiar with that port. Some of the other ports I'm a little bit confused on what they mean. The pinout actually is on the top panel here, which is surprising and rare, but it's aftermarket. Not too unbelievable there. So that must be your FM and other, actually it's probably just a generic antenna, and this is all of your radio boards. Now, how do we take this apart without like ruining it? There we go. We're going to hopefully retain these screws. And then we can flip this over and show they are using heatsink compound on the integrated little amplifier chips. So these are those standard little all-in-one amplifier chips that do pretty much everything. You can see the PCB actually comes out to this edge here. And here's our little Nidec fan. 12.04 amps. And it's just the cutest little guy. That probably tells us the dimensions, but it is 25mm fan. There's this vaguely and crudely put on cellophane tape. Is it cellophane or Captain? It's not yellow like Captain. It's very strange. Maybe it's not cellophane, it's plastic gear. Over top the coil to prevent friction and so on, and shorting the coil to the case, but it's poorly cut. It doesn't matter, I would imagine. But minor touches. Let's see, I'm going to take the front panel off. There's more to it than that. There are retention clips. Alright, the screws have to go. Now we can start cheating and go bonk, bonk, bonk. Ooh. When the screwdriver gets away from you. Yeah. Oh, that's a springy noise. There's PCB along the front. I don't know what connects to it. We will hold off on that for a second. Oh, didn't realize. 2006. Yeah, there's stuff on the bottom. There's a little switch down here. Alright, we'll pop that back in for a moment. We're going to wait just to see how it's connected onto the board. Well, we can get the antenna out. That's not too unbelievably complicated. Seems that some of these screws, usually when they give you cutouts, that implies those screws have to come out in order to, well actually they need to go in to assemble it, but also that they need to come out to disassemble it. Okay, and here's our flat flex. Oh, there's a screw. There's not a screw. One more that actually didn't get free, but okay, easy to get on this board down here. Lift, oh jeez, don't break the board. Lift the, oh. Alright, the one on the radio is easier to get to, or sorry, the CD mechanism. Alright, lift that out, and now we're free. Oh, there's the other screw. Oh yes, there was a board-to-board interconnect. Good idea, I waited, but looks like we can just lift this out. Although, we'll start taking this board out. Interesting moment. Looks like all the screws, well, I mean there might be some missing over here, but looks like all the screws are out. And you can flip over and double check your work, and we can see that these are out. There might be some under here. But there's these two screws here I haven't removed. If you flip over, you can't see them. So I'm fairly certain this front panel is attached by the screws underneath here. So I have to take out the main board to take out this front panel piece. Interesting little catch. This is soldered down. For grounding. Good, important. Can't remove the board if that's still there. You could desolder it and flip it over if you have a lot of heat and whatever else, but we are lazy on this channel. And you can fix this later by just soldering this piece of metal back together. Now we should be home free. If you don't keep shoving our finger right in the same spot in the heatsink. Looks like we're soldered to the bottom of the board. There's the problem there. You can't see it because the flat flex. Anyway, there's one of those tabs that's folded over and then soldered. Flux would make this easy, I know. That requires flux. And the tab has been removed. Okay, we're now free. So we'll take that and they've got a plastic sheet in here to prevent all the points on the bottom of the board from shorting directly to ground there. This nice little plastic sheet. We'll go ahead and does this board pop off? Yes. Oh, it's under a little. Okay. So that was actually retained. I'll show this off. Retained by the incredibly strong. I don't need this light anymore. I might even ourselves out. With this incredibly strong. Somewhere there's an angle. Viewers at home. Lever there. It's actually holding it in because on this adapter board is a tiny little micro. It's a micro switch. It's a tiny little micro switch to tell if the front panel. Let's see. Yes, to tell if the front panel was down, because the lever moves like this. The action of the lever moving down then presses against this switch, letting it know that the front panel has been opened. And the other side of this board just has two LEDs. The fancy connector you see in the front, which is the connector to the board down there, which is a more standard board-to-board connector. And this is a more like external board-to-board connector. And the tactile button, eject button for the CD mechanism. Interestingly enough, I think one thing is that it can also tell if the front's open to operate the CD mechanism, so you can't like do combinations of shut or open and make it, you know, screw up it with the CD tray. It knows. Other than that, there is a little light guide. It's just a diffuser, really. Piece of frosty plastic to diffuse the two LEDs along the front there. And is there not a light for the CD button? Oh, there is. So you can see the CD button looks like it would be slightly illuminated because it's semi-translucent-y, transparent-y, whatever you want to say. Go over there. And there's a tiny LED right by it. Anyway, now we can move on to the real board here. It was a tease, it was a farce. We're going to look at the CD first. I'm not going to actually remove anything else from this because this side's just going to be a CD player. You know, spins the disc, moves the thing along, just a micro-focusing head. But on the back, you can actually see most of that mechanism anyway. We've got the board and all of, oh, not my pointer, miscalculation. On the back, all these chips have like crazy conformal coating around the pins. At least I imagine that's what it is, or some sort of anti-conductive thing because it's above the other board. I don't know. It's very interesting. On this very special teardown, we will remove the dust that's building up on our lens we look through, because that might improve the video quality by just a hair. And I dropped my pointer, so we've already failed. There, is that not 1,000 times clearer? We can see that this is probably a pre-built module by someone. There might be a factory identification on it somewhere. Unless it's Alpine itself, who knows? They have different options or what is it, test? No, different options. This doesn't look oh, this is a standard connector. I don't know if you would just do point-to-point wiring there. I don't know what that's for. But this looks like a standard connector option here that you could solder on. In fact, it's labeled. And then you can get the flat flex put on here, which they elected for. And these are just test points. You get some more points here. Your flat flex that goes down to the motor assembly. And we've got our chips. Everything's upside down. Here's those points again, labeled in the correct way for you. Nothing matters to me. Got our chips. Here's another chip. This is probably the motor controller. It has the large heatsink ground pad type things on it. another chip along with all the passives. This strange little flex that, okay, actually goes underneath here through this tiny slot cut in the board. This flex goes down there. This point is actually, again, like a test point option thing. It looks like there's a lot of the pins back there. No adjustments on here for adjusting like laser focus bias and anything like that, like you see in more, at least older or more cheaply made CD players. So this is either configured entirely in software or does its own adjustments, that type of thing. I don't know how extremely fancy CD players work, even though this is only from 2006. Got the back end of the motor. Here's our standard worm gear. We got our little worm gear that moves this in and out. Does this have a limit? Yep. You're stuck somewhere in there. It's a bit of probably lithium grease. It's the white stuff. So there's the motor here, which drives this gear mechanism, which then in turn drives the worm gear drive and moves the entire assembly. And then on the assembly, it actually has the ability to move the laser around just enough and then focus up and down onto the actual disc. And this motor is just for spinning the disc up to speed. This plug is actually just on the back of one of the little spring mounts that you probably can't see. So this is on a bunch of shock mounts, so the whole mechanism has a little bit of give to it. Although, if there's anything I've learned, it's all going to be done memory that keeps your CD from skipping, really. The shock just takes off the edge and makes it to where your disc doesn't scratch, but almost anything in a car is going to vibrate, so you just got to keep enough of the disc in memory that you don't skip when you hit a nice crazy bump. Underneath is some more traditional PCB for, it's probably some sensor. Oh, that's motor. It's actually quite interesting. It's tempting to take off because they've got a ribbon right here that goes under to connect to more things. I didn't imagine you need that much more for CD, but then I think that's actually it. So, not too worried about it. So on the main board, we've got our speaker out terminals, which look like they all go through little filter caps, like DC offset removal, and I'm sure they snake their way around to the amplifier. See a little bit of decoupling caps along here, as well as the connector that they, for the fan, they stuck the connector in for the fan and put it underneath. I think this wire is just a jumper to hold down. I don't imagine they actually need the jumper, so I think they put, yeah, no, there we go. So this is loose. So this jumper here is entirely, which is not a jumper actually, it's just a wire that's been heat shrunk and then pressed over the fan wire to hold it in. So to change the fan, you probably have to take it apart about this far to not remove this board. We've got that switch that was on the other underside. Exciting. Interesting package that I can't identify with my naked eye, but sure are shiny. Really pretty. I wonder if it's like fuses or... Just tiny little caps everywhere. Going onto this chip, there's conformal coating around most of the pins. It's this interesting blue, so you can actually identify where it's been placed. Actually, I wonder if it's UV. Ooh.
You live out there in the desert, better get yourself one of them UV flashlights. Great for identifying if there's scorpions.
I'm thinking now. Oh well, I mean you can, you can see it reflect, but yeah, not that exciting. Go down here. See, there's just some protection. Looks like just resistors actually. Over here is kind of the on-off switch. I'm fairly certain. Was it a reset? Well, I'm confused. I think this is some kind of reset switch. Is it marked? Not really. because it doesn't look like it's accessible from the front except for poking with a pin. Some more conformal coating in this area. Here we've got, I'm not going to bother removing it. It's a little module for dealing with the antenna radio. In fact, if there's a chip, it's on the other side. Yes, there is. You can just see that. Imagine it can focus. You can see the top of the chip and then there's fingers pressing down on it. Both if it needs it heat sinking as well as holds the thing in place. Don't think it does anything through EMI, specifically with the fingers, but got a model number on it. Amusing little glass device right there. So we moved over here. We've got a bunch of unpopulated stuff as well as the circle pattern, probably exactly where the circle for the CD is. Move up and over, more conformal coating, this large diode across the input, as well as this giant inductor. All of this kind of protected against start, stop, and motor ignition spikes, kind of a little bit of everything. They attached the inductor with PCB to move it down to attach to the board. Interesting. Got ourselves a very tall electrolytic capacitor for dealing with all that input, and it's silicone down, but you can still easily snap it off to prevent the vibrations from taking it down. I have it for certain, but you can snap that right off because leverage. Moving on, you can see that we're missing a 8-pin device there. We've got more of that lovely conformal coating on a small chip, and then just some other little parts. Here's your multi-way connector with filtering as well as some sort of protection. Got diode symbols there. I don't see specifically where they are, but I imagine they're either the tiny components or maybe around the back. They exist. So I imagine analog audio comes over this iPod connector, 2006 iPod, so think about that. There's actually no reason we can't just shove that back in where it belongs. Oh, we've got a little built-in beeper speaker thing. Oh, how cute. So the radio can beep. Here looks like our main power supply. They have the ability to put a box over it if they think the switch mode's too noisy, but apparently it's not because we don't got the box over it. A little shield. Nothing on the back either, we'll show in a bit, but it doesn't exist. Here's probably one of our bigger processors. AI processor. Is that what the AI switch is for? 5 megahertz. Because it's labeled. Flipping it over reveals just lots of support. Nothing too much to report on. This is near the input. This is the radio connector. So it actually tells you all the pins. We can turn this around here. This tells you what all the pins are. Conformally coated, of course. What's really funny about this blue conformal coating is it looks like you got some water in here and it badly corroded it, but that is not the case. More traces. Finally another component, which I can see the brushstroke if you get the light right. And apparently one option you could mount a screw here, but they obviously haven't used it. So all the other pads are like that. Just showing off the other parts. There's just a connector that I don't know what it does. This unidentified connector. It's actually labeled accessory batteries. That's actually our full-on power connector. Bus plus, bus minus, S ground, ground. Fat trace of power leave. Interesting is that this looks like it's been reworked. Let's see if we can make this larger. Looks like we've had this reworked. doesn't look like it actually burned the diode. It was glue dotted. It was glue dotted down, but there's a lot of flux on there, so I wonder if they. I don't know why. Well, that's a brief overview of the radio. Imagine I might put it back together and mark that there's no grounding left on it, but. And if you did things right, you can just reverse order all of your screws. There's a bunch of LEDs underneath where this button goes, so it glows around there. There's probably actually plastic. Oh, yes. So you can see all those LEDs. Light up this nice ring so that your volume knob glows. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already so you can see more teardowns and other electronic-y funness. Leave some great comments and like the video if it's your sort of thing. Only one screw left over. Must be some kind of record. This one just won't fit, so whatever. I know where it goes. That one, who knows? Well, should probably get this back in the neighbor's car before they notice. Oops. Took too long. Oh well. See ya.